Welcome back to, hi everyone, waking up. It's Thursday evening in New York City. The year is 2014. It is November. You are alive, and this is the last time you'll be exactly this way. So I'm going to ask you, I try and think of new things to ask you every time, but the idea here is that each time you become aware of what you're doing on the planet, it's an opportunity to do a karma to wake yourself up. Because if you let it happen by rote, is that the word? By rote, yeah, rote. Thank you, I'm ethnic. Yeah. If you just let it happen like that, you make it normal. And the entire process that we're studying is about becoming extraordinary. Yeah. So, like I mentioned at the beginning of this course, this whole course for me was extraordinary. It bashed me out of normal, but I was still operating with the impulse and the inertia of normal. But it did some good damage to my mind that told me it was possible not to have a schmucky life, just a regular, just the same that's going to happen to everybody, that's happened to everybody, that's etc, etc, etc. And this is available to you, for you, by you. No one's going to touch you. Yeah, it really woke me up. Wake up. It is possible to wake up. Was the wake up. So I try and challenge you every time to say, really, really, why are you here? Yeah, and I mean it in the biggest sense. Why? What are you doing? Yeah, and yes, we're all doing nominal things. We'll have to do a whole bunch of nominal things. But if you keep asking yourself and check your answer, is that really your answer? And is that answer maybe too small? Is that answer all we know? Where did we get to learn that kind of answer? So it's my job as sharing this amazing information that's been on the planet for thousands of years, but no one talks about because we like shopping, and eating. To use it properly for you. Yeah, so I hope you have the capacity to wake yourself up. No one does it for you. And this dialogue is just a pretense thing. I'm standing here going blah, blah, blah. From an atomic point of view, from a scientific point of view, I'm just atoms, right? All particles together and moving away. Making decibels. But you're catching it as something. And some of you have been around for a while, and like, oh, there's Hector doing his thing here. Maybe that's me doing that too. And some of you are like, there's a voice that says, what if? But then, if you're like me, you recoil a little bit and go, oh, but if you try, you get hurt. Or if you try, I won't make it, so better not try. I mean, whatever the story is you do, I know what I do. So really, really, your lives are changing, and either you change them in the direction, push the whole thing in the direction you want it to change, and it's possible that it might be bigger than what you think, or you just flow and someone changes it for you. You're changing. At some point, you'll change. You won't be like you are now any longer. So what will you be? And the answer to this thing we call Buddhism, whatever, something, it's not a thing. The idea that arrived on this planet and your hearing says you can direct your change. The change occurs because of the things you put through your mind, and then what motivates and how that mind motivates your actions and speech. Yeah. So I challenge you today again, please. step outside normal for a sec. What would the perfect you be, Emily? You know? And maybe we can see it. So.
Sashi
Pukir Jishin Metotram Rira Lingshin Yamdegam Padi Sange Shindu Miteduargi Drobun Namda Shinla Juparsho Idam Guru Ratnamandala Kamninyatayami
Sangye
Chidam Zohi Choknam Nam Janchu Vardu Dakni Kapsuchi Dahi Chenyen Gipe Sonam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Drupasho
Sangye
Chidam Zoki Choknam Na Janchu Vardu Dakni Kapsuchi Dati Jenyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Drupasho
Sangye
Chidam Soki Choknam Na Janchu Vardu Dakni Kapsuchi Dati Jenyen Gipe Sanam Ki Drola Benchir Sangye Drupasho. So just take a comfortable seated position. We'll do a quick meditation. Bring your awareness to your body and how it's sitting, and just release any tension and settle it as a solid fixture on your cushion. Just scan it with your mind and relax anything that's tight. So now remove yourself slightly from the perception of the body, just know it's parked there. And become aware of the totality of you, the part of you that is your mind. Get a sense of expansiveness, like a massive blue sky, unobstructed. Your mind is limitless. Your mind is not made of the same stuff as your body. Your mind is your awareness, your sensations, your thoughts, your feelings, your perceptions. And see if you can do something slightly different than we normally do in meditation. Instead of focusing through your nose on the breath, Focus on the movement of breath through your entire mind, your sensation of being. See if you can do a massive exhale in all directions and inhale in all directions. Just with the pace of normal breath. You're not controlling anything, you're just able to breathe from more than just your nostrils. And just watch the pace. This complete breathing touches everything. And imagine that if a mind like this can evolve, can improve beyond the limitations we understand to be here, that it can become an enlightened mind. And so imagine that there are beings who have already done this, who have already achieved a state where their mind is perfected. And in your breathing, invite them to come. If you have a specific teacher or a being you practice with, imagine them appearing instantly in front of you, in rhythm with your breath. All you need to do is observe their presence with the sensation of your mind. Your breath touching them, every particle of mind, every sensation of mind. Sensing every part of them and their mind. And at every contact they sense bliss. Now try and imagine what it would be like to experience the world through their mind. If they are incapable of having afflicted mind, can only perceive perfection and bliss. For a second, allow yourself to experience what they would be experiencing, looking upon you. Should be some kind of joy, some brilliance, some goodness. breath, just return your perception to your mind looking at them, and in some kind of gesture of gratitude offer them something brilliant with your mind, some vision, some sensation, some hope. The kindest thing you've got, the most beautiful thing you can imagine. Just offer it to them. And then gently become aware of any obstructions in your mind from seeing and experiencing bliss and joy. Anything obstructing your virtue or your happiness. It might be some thing you did to hurt another. It might just be a pattern of living. It might be a confidence issue. Whatever it is that keeps occurring for you, imagine it as some part of your mind that can change and can be removed. It can transform. So, just calling it out in front of this being is like a purification. An awareness that you can change it. A wish that you could stop it, and some commitment that you will try. And then imagining what you would be like without it. As if a burden's been lifted from your shoulder. Just imagine that. Once you feel that as a goodness, try and get the sensation that something is cleaning and being removed. That you began the process to remove that. Once you've done that, search your mind for the highest goodness you have, the nicest virtue, your best capacity or ability. And actually give yourself space to be happy you have that, because you caused that. Be happy you can use it for goodness. And imagine that growing. And then for a second, just imagine all the goodnesses that are going across the minds of everybody here. And all the goodnesses that are held in the minds of everybody that has any goodness in this world. And see if you can lift up your mind to be truly happy. Have joy in your mind that these things exist, that beings around you are awesome and kind and loving and giving and gentle and just feel happy for them. Imagine all the people that went to His Holiness's teachings. Imagine the hope in their hearts to do something good in their lives. Be happy for them. Masses crowded around goodness. Be happy you can perceive that. Then again, become aware of the entirety of your mind connecting with the being in front of you. And through every sense power that you can, ask them to please always appear to you in thoughts, in the street, as your friends, in memories, in dreams, in books, in sounds, in sensations, to teach you how to move forward on your path, to always teach you, ask them to please teach you. Regardless if things go well or things go bad, ask them that they remind you. How to wake up. And by asking, they're bound to you. They're happily bound to you. And then ask them to always stay close, to never leave, to always stay close until you reach your goal. And then just imagine them truly happy to know you have these intentions. And they begin to rise up and shrink and turn to face the same direction you're facing until they rest at the crown of your head, small as a thumb, but strong and vibrant. See if you can sense a condensed version of them there, just about to touch the crown of your head. Every instant of wisdom and compassion available to you through them, however you conceive of them. You're ready, just gently bring yourself back to the room. Thanks for doing that. Everyone was really still. It was nice. So doing those meditations at the beginning of class for me, when I first met these teachings, was really weird. So if anyone's weirded out, it's okay. Yeah. But there's a reason for the steps and there's a reason for the sequence. I was weirded out because growing up Catholic, you know, you're not supposed to bow down to idol. What did someone? What was it?
Is it false idols?
False idols or something. So I'm not bowing to anyone. Who am I calling? And there are spirits in the room. Like all these weird things was going on in my head. So the bottom line here is that everything you're putting through your mind, you're becoming. So if you're resisting yourself seeing a perfected being, you're creating that. If you see 80% unenlightened being and really generate a sense of, oh, this is a possibility, you're creating that. And 20% not. I mean, that's just what it is. Whatever you're processing, that's what's happening. But then why the bowing, why the offering, why the thing? We'll talk a little bit about it tonight. I don't know if you noticed, but we began by doing, last week we started, actually the week before we started touching on prostration and making offerings and taking refuge, right? As a preliminary to removing the obstacles that let you have this thing inside you called the wish for enlightenment for the sake of other beings. So today we'll finish the purification part, and you'll get a sense of these steps and why these steps. And then we'll begin on generating the courses, or, I mean, if you're going to use the metaphor of farming, you've removed all the weeds, yeah? You go get your tools by doing the 3 preliminaries to purification. You sort of know that you're going to go out there and till the soil and whatever, but you've got to get your tools and your stuff. Then you do these 4 forces, which I'll finish covering tonight. Which means for you, you're going through the garden of your mind and removing anything that's underground that's about to turn into weeds, and any obvious weeds that are there, and any weed seeds that you're not that kind of weed, David. And any other weed seeds that you're dropping. I can still do a joke with a straight face. That you might be doing in the act of purifying, okay? Because the mind is so fast, is so strong. You are forever planting activity in your mind, and you know as you're cleaning the soil, you're dropping stuff that's growing. So you got to clean all that up because it's going to grow into something.
This is maybe a more logistical question, but in the visualizations, like if you choose to visualize a deity, for example, on Tuesday when John was talking about this a little bit, he said like it's not right to visualize it cartoonish like in the Tanka.
Yeah.
And so my deities start looking like celebrity faces. Do you have any comment on that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. Obviously, you don't let the external visualization become too weird, okay? In a crazy sense. But my personal advice.
The external? Do you mean the?
Meaning the image you're thinking. She's putting a cartoon face on someone or a celebrity face on someone. Go for it. Like flow with it. If the intention and the sensation and the vibration is that there's something behind that is enlightened. Yeah, that is magnificent, because that's more important than what it looks like. Now it'd be nice, because does it matter if it's got Asian eyes, or should it have Indian eyes, or will it eventually have Western eyes? Your Buddha, the one you're going to meet when you see emptiness directly, is it going to have brown skin or yellow skin or white skin or red skin or no skin, or, you know? Is it going to look like, I don't know. For me, it was Joseph Campbell at the beginning, you know, and he wasn't a celebrity, but he was for me. you know. And then he began to change. What I'm saying is play with your generation. You're generating a deity. You're generating a being. You're imagining. Do you really know what an enlightened being looks like? Have you met one?
No.
Kind of.
Yes.
I don't know.
Everyone?
For you, you know.
What's the answer?
I mean, that could be the answer, but you see, you're generating something, and this is the awesome thing about sutra. I know what's coming. For those of you that finish this course and are getting serious and actually getting results, I know what kind of things are coming, and every single thing, without exception. And I sort of hated this answer from Geshe Michael when I got it at the beginning, because I'm like, well, I just got to believe you and trust you or whatever, and I was resistant to that. But he didn't make this stuff up. I mean, my teacher, Geshe Michael, was diligent at getting exactly what his teacher, Ken Rinpoche, who I met and would say exactly the same thing, and his teacher, Trijang Rinpoche, and his teacher, Prabhupada Rinpoche. Like, if you read any of the texts, they're anally retentive about keeping the source, and I'm trying to say, my opinion, in Hector's point of view, separate to the teachings, right? So, I don't even know why I got there. What did I get there?
You were talking about like creating something like it's okay with celebrities, it's representative.
Right. No, I was going. I know what's coming. Yeah. So
right.
every step that we do in this thing, like the steps to the 7 limb practice that we just did now, means something later. It actually plants a seed for something that ripens, and when that ripens, you call that a different kind of practice. Yeah. So I can tell you that sort of. That everything you do will have a result, because it's a cause for something else. So it's a reason. There's a reason why putting this kind of jigsaw pieces together, and I didn't know when I was doing it, so I just went, okay, if you say so, because you look like an awesome person, and you're much more awesome than the shitty boss that I keep fighting with, and you're telling me things that are pretty true, but nobody ever told me, i.e., I'm going to die, it's going to happen quickly, my hair's going to fall out, if everything you get, you're going to lose. And I mean, all these horrible things that were true, nobody had said it. Everyone's pretending that I go to work, I'm going to get happy, get babies, have a picket fence, and I'll live happily ever after. But then I kept seeing coffins going into the ground, and nobody talked about the coffins, you know? So at least someone had the guts to say, hey, reality check. The life you're in has a certain kind of end. Have a look. Ding. I don't want to look, I'm scared, it's terrible. Or, oh my God, okay, that's where I'm heading. Reality check. If I know what's coming, I might be able to have enough time to do something about it. Yeah? I didn't know whether these things worked. I knew the alternative. I knew I could follow my dad's footsteps, my brother's footsteps, my grandparents' footsteps, my great-grandparents' footsteps, all of humanity's footsteps. And so obvious. So I fancied myself a maverick. I'm trying something freaky. I'm trying something slightly different. If the worst that could happen is I might learn to be a little kinder. I might have to force myself to be a little bit academic. Not academic. I mean, that's not me. That's not the kind of person I thought I was. The worst that could happen is I might have to learn some weird sounding words in another language that look pretty cool on paper. The worst that can happen is I'm going to be different. I mean, I know you know the answer. So I was fortunate enough that this dude I met that I didn't like at the beginning, Geshe Michael Roach, holy Geshe Michael Roach now, dude Michael Roach before, right? Appeared in my life and forced me to get a reality check that didn't taste so nice. But it got in, and like I said at the beginning of class, it jolted me to say, okay, so I can either continue blindly on the road that we all go on, get better pants, have a nice fancy title in my job with my tie until someone gives me a gold watch or tries to beat me at that promotion. I mean, whatever, you know. I could be the best at, I could be Bill Gates, I could be, it doesn't matter. You get the point, right? So then I figured I better trust. I mean, I didn't write it. He didn't write it. If any of you were who was His Holiness's teaching this? Okay, 2 people. What were all you doing? I got messages from people, several people going, oh my goodness, what we're learning, the words we're using here, the funny words, whatever. If I didn't hear these, don't know what I would have gotten in there. Because there's all these big words that take all this energy to conceive of. And we really have a solid foundation. Dalai Lama's teaching from the same thing. He got the same schooling from Trijang Rinpoche, Ken Rinpoche's teacher, same people. So, there is I digress again. There's a reason why the steps are the steps, yeah? And why the jigsaw pieces create an object in your mind that creates a reality. The longer you resist, or the more you try and not put one piece, because I don't like that piece, you're not going to get the result. I mean, I didn't like that answer. But again, what choice did I have? I mean, I knew my other alternative, I could get a promotion. But once it got in, I couldn't get it out. I couldn't get it out. It was like a curse. It was like a good curse.
What was the answer?
The answer is this.
That was what you were talking about? That's what he said to you?
No, he was teaching me Buddhism. He was teaching me all this stuff. What I'm saying is, I know what's
something specific.
No, you were dreaming. You were dreaming. No, I wasn't talking about specifics. I was talking in general. The content of the first few downloads from Geshe Michael Roach and Ken Rinpoche was shocking enough to say, do something. Yeah? I didn't like it. So now 18 years later, I'm sharing with you everything they taught me, and I'm trying to do it perfectly. Yeah? Because some stuff, when I actually did it, when I didn't waste 7 years, 6 years, resisting, pretending, not doing it, after I started doing it, actually stuff happened. Well, yeah, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know if it's going to happen for you either. Yeah? And either do you, until you do it. Which is, that's what it is. It actually is what it is, So I hope that you can do something before it's too late. And too late doesn't mean dun dun dun. Too late means before your mind solidifies into some pattern of normality on this planet that says, oh, I know everything and life is sort of sucky and I'll just stay in my sucky life. And then you get children and you get a thing and you get distractions and you get a promotion and you get a haircut and then you're dead.
Never cut my hair.
And you're never going to cut your hair. But you get the point, right? So back to your original question, there is something coming, right? If you continue these teachings, that you actually self-realize. And it's to do with precisely that question. So I can't go too in detail because it's a different topic, but it's a beautiful question. What's your flavor of enlightenment? I've had visions in this kind of preliminary practice that jolt me. I didn't want to visualize that. They weren't pretty. Yeah? And then there's some that were magnificent. And then the majority of them were boring and difficult and hard work, and I couldn't picture them properly. The majority. Yeah? But then you keep doing it, and then you have a vision. The trick is, it's all the sensation, all the visceral experience that you can have in communion with that being. Because there is nobody there. You open your eyes, there's no one there. Right? In the normal world. You're generating something. You're habituating your mind, you're creating a pattern that will result in something similar to what you generated, similar to what you created. So if 80% is doubt and they're flat or they're weird, result. But then when that result comes, if you have enough wisdom, if you know that you created it, you can augment it and make it better. No problem. That's why it's called practice. Because you get all the ingredients for cake, you make cake, it turns out shitty, but it's a cake. Then you go, oh, a little bit less vinegar out of whatever you put in it.
That's why
You do?
No, I'm pretty sure that's why it's a shitty cake.
I don't know, I was thinking balsamic. Is that no?
No.
Oh, that's good.
Italian cake. Okay.
The one Helena gave you had vinegar in it. Actually.
So,
The one Helena gave you had vinegar in it.
thank you. It was awesome. It was really nice. It was killer cake. Yeah. Go me for my karma. So it's an important question because you've got to trust what you're doing. You see, half of my wasted time, if not 80% of my wasted time, was doubting, did I get the eyes right? Did I get the image right? Are they vibrating? Are they flat? And what am I planting in my garden? I'm planting that, not the visual. I'm distracted visualizing that. So if you're getting a nice spontaneous thing that gives you the sensation of connectivity, then go with it, flow, beautiful, fantastic. And if they look like, I don't know, Lady Gaga, then it might be a joke that they're playing on you. And see them as in light being going, ta-da! Yeah, I was born this way.
I mean, if you did that, wouldn't it be like every time you saw Lady Gaga, you would think of her as enlightened?
As enlightened, yeah. It would, but I'm saying, don't try and make Lady. I mean, unless she's your guru, unless you really see her as someone magnificent. I don't know. Whoever it is for you, and if you don't have one, make them up because they will appear with those flavors. Yeah. So eventually, you're going to have to get to a point where Lady Gaga and everybody is that kind of being for you.
I wanted to ask about so you do this practice and then there are results that come. And so I don't know if the results just didn't come or did results come, but
I didn't know.
I didn't know that was it. Good things. Now people give me a lot of things. It's really nice.
Yeah.
And then, but I don't know what am I looking for a result.
Thank
and
you.
how do I
Yeah.
recognize it?
Good question. Really awesome question. I didn't even think to ask it. And then by the time I thought about it, I was so far away. I was in Australia. We had dial telephones. He wouldn't answer. No, he wouldn't. Because he's not at the 3 jewels, which is what I used to do.
And you
Get your Michael at 3 in the morning. So.
Or like a pop of wisdom,
No,
there are times I like that.
yeah. Good thing. It's tricky because I can give you my personal, very similar, for a long time, those questions, and still do to some degree. But if your life in general is getting better, then you're getting positive results. You don't have any certainty of where they come from until you have a direct experience of emptiness, until you have that thing that removes all doubt, that you actually experience the code, if you like. You don't know. But I think you don't know that you get money from going to work either, and you get happiness from eating. And I think we don't know. We think we know. We've been told we know. But we eat too much of this, it stops being nice and it turns to diarrhea, and then it wasn't nice food, but we don't even question it. We don't know, and that's the problem. The problem is we don't know. And so you have to study. That's one of the reasons you have to study reason and logic, cause and effect, karma. Where do things come from? Could something bad come from something good? And then once you've learned enough of that, once you get that enough, you have to have some confidence. I don't want to call it blind faith because it's not blind, it's actually intelligent, thought through, analytical, to the best of my shitty ability, that says, okay, so then I have to start shifting the way I experience my world. No good things don't come from fruit or ice cream or, like I thought they did. Or abundance comes from working really hard, like I was taught it did. Or intelligence comes from spending too many years in a university, like I was taught it did. Because we're living those lives, because this is where we were born with this code. That's not true either. I can discuss that with anybody. We all know it's not true. I've met too many university professors who are stupid. They might have a lot of information, but they're not humane, they're not kind, they're not functional, they're not, you know. And I've also met some really uneducated people who are the kindest, smartest, self-sufficient beings I know. So if we investigate things bluntly, we have no ground to stand on our normal way of looking at the world. But then that's true for this as well, right? It's like, well, I don't know if doing a good karma will produce a good result. So you have to use your logic and go, can something good, what's my experience of reality say? You know, do we see that the causality that we see in the nominal world, can that relate to my inner world? And if those theories are right, then let me apply it to my inner world. And then something shifts where you, after a while, either give up the fight because you're too tired and you relax into just letting it come in, and you have an experience, hopefully, that lets you feel, maybe for the first time and maybe more abundantly, that says, I just had a beautiful sensation. I looked at a lady across on the subway and she smiled at me, and it was a pleasure. And it didn't come from me battering my eyelids, it didn't come from my beautiful flowing hair, it didn't come from her thinking that I had weird whatever. It came from a goodness in my heart. That another person sitting in my space, looking at a lady smiling at them, would go, stop looking at me. I didn't do that. I felt kind. I felt loved. I felt happy. It didn't come from the lady. And then something shifts because your world begins to look that way. And that's a result. That's a result of habituating a different worldview. And then once you're in that worldview, these things become second nature. And you don't know which karma produced the good sensation with the lady on the subway. But then you do know that every activity you do of body, speech and mind must have a result. And if it's colored with kindness, it must be kind. And so you have this intelligent understanding. It's not equally groundless. I think it's less groundless than taking aspirin to remove headaches and going to a job to get abundance. And I think those things are crazy, honestly. But we don't think it's crazy because we're all blindly going, we're going to do. I was taught this in university. That's cool. So, you know, does that answer your question a little bit?
So is it, I'm just trying to think, because is it like, is it illogical to think the other way? And you're saying that the correct way is just through logic? But is it through wisdom?
What do you mean?
So, okay, so we think that what we're studying, think that good things come from good things and bad things come from bad things. But thinking that a headache, a bad thing, comes from, thinking that aspirin cures a headache is wrong because it's not logical to think that way. I don't know if I'm making sense.
No, it's like, it's groundless because
It's groundless because there'll be one aspirin that won't cure your headache, and then we still believe that aspirin, whatever is in aspirin.
So it's not logical.
It's not logical. It's more logical to think that if you just had a positive sensation, it must have been from some positive intention. Because where are you experiencing the sensation? It wasn't on my skin that the lady's eyeball touched. She was sitting over there. There was no particle from her touching my particle that produced beautiful sensation, because then everybody would feel the same way. And that's what I mean by logical, understanding karma and emptiness in the way described here. It doesn't mean that because we learn it, because I say it here and you parrot it back, which is it has been my practice. It doesn't mean that because we do that, you actually learn it. Learning it means struggling with it. When that nice thing happens, the hardest thing for us is when terrible things happen, because all you want to do is lash out and point to something that forced you to have this sensation. That's hard, and that's why they say anger destroys mountains of virtue. Yeah. So the hardest thing is when you're upset, because your mind goes into that pattern that points to, you're the reason for my upsetness. Groundless, completely groundless. Yeah. Now, with this new worldview that we have to habituate, and it takes time. You don't come to 3 weeks of classes, 12 weeks of classes, and then your life changes. if I'm honest with you, you might not come to 5 years worth of classes and your life changes. Maybe it does for you. I don't know. It took me a long time. I resisted a lot too, but honestly, I resisted honestly. And then, so I'm getting a nice, honest result. What was I saying just before this?
You're getting a nice result.
Not immediately, but before this.
You have to
Lady
habituate your
Gaga?
mind to emptiness and
Yeah. Karma and emptiness, karma and emptiness.
And you were talking about who you imagine when you're through the seven limb,
Yeah.
who you imagine as an enlightened being before this.
I'm saying when you're habituating this worldview, this new worldview, you don't just come to a few classes and learn it. Yeah, and then you know it. You have to struggle with it. And the struggle is the thing we call practice. But in that deconstructing, if you're truly working it, you are going to feel like a weirdo on the planet, in your job, in your family. That's because you're not doing the same things and you can't even have the same conversations. Yeah, you're having a complete scientific experiment within your entire consciousness. But it's powerful because you are undoing a long time of habituation. A long time of habituation, especially if you understand that you popped in here as this kind of being because something produced it and it wasn't sperm and egg only, you know. Your specific flavor of consciousness came from something else, a previous moment of the same stuff. It wasn't your mum's consciousness because she still has a mind, and it wasn't your dad's, he still got his mind. Yeah? It wasn't sitting in a puppy waiting for you, you know, it wasn't the same energy that produced this kind of perceptions produced these kinds of perceptions. That's true of this lifetime and before. And if we've been habituating the ignorance that says, I get happy when a person smiles at me, and you think that's really true, and you've done that for eons and lifetimes, undoing that takes extraordinary effort. Yeah, so it might not be a year, it might not be 2 weeks. But there's also incredible power in undoing something that never existed anyway. I don't know.
And not just with perfections, right, but with all the purification.
Of course,
Right.
yeah, of course, yeah.
Why waste time purifying when you could just perceive emptiness and it would all go away?
Yeah, good question. Because where's the answer? Why waste time purifying when you could just perceive?
Because
you
you won't,
You don't purify.
Why?
because there are obstacles
Why?
You'll have the
in your
negative karma.
mind. Because there are obstacles in your mind that are results
Yeah.
of the karma that are preventing you from.
What's your debate on that?
Well, do you have to be completely like ethical and moral in order to perceive emptiness? Because perceiving emptiness seems like more of a logical
Yeah.
thing. Like you could habituate yourself to reality.
Yeah, yeah,
But
good, good,
still
good,
be-
good, yeah, nice.
Yeah, but to
Go on.
get the direct perception of emptiness, you still have to clear.
Yeah,
the
why are you steering
obstacles.
obstacles? There is a very
Because-
simple answer to all this. I'm glad you guys are all debating this. This is what you should be doing in your minds.
You have to be at a place of
ignorance?
perfect stillness.
Well, is there
Because-
such a thing as emptiness, a reality that is self-existent?
No.
Is there is there an emptiness? Is there a you perceiving the ultimate nature of existence that is sitting out there waiting for you to pop into it and bounce into it, separate from your mind? Does that exist?
No.
No. So, how do things come about? How they arise? How does anything in your experience of the universe arise?
Your
Your
karma.
karma.
The karma.
We call it karma, but it's just a movement of your mind,
Yeah.
right? We call it karma, which is movement of your mind and what follows. And so the experience of you saying, I've just had a complete understanding of the ultimate nature of all things, which is a valid perception because some beings have had it. Buddhas have had it, yeah? We know it's a valid perception just as much as I don't like the bad smell of armpits or whatever is a valid perception, and we all know that exists because we've been in the summer on the subways. Yeah. So we know that perception exists, and we bump into that perception. We experience that perception if certain causes and conditions arise. The same is true to having a complete experience in your mind that you've had a touch of all reality, and then to conceive of yourself as having that. So it's a produced thing to have a valid perception of all things. It's not just sitting there. And to have a produced thing of the ultimate thing, which is the most purest, the most magnificent, the all-encompassing, the most freeing thing, which is an ultimate goodness, you must have a mind that has those qualities. You must have done enough of that has those qualities. And if you're going through cycles of suffering, because we're here, and some things are good and some things are bad, and when things are good, they'll turn bad, and then the bad will stop, and the good will, and that doesn't stop. Those ups and downs are suffering by themselves. They're suffering. Honey on a razor blade. So to remove that is what we purify.
So would the pursuit of the perception of emptiness at the same time purify your consciousness? Or is it better to work on purifying like your nominal ethical reality and then perceive emptiness? Or if you just keep meditating on emptiness, will it help you become more moral? Like, is there an order to it?
So let me do the class.
Okay.
I'll answer it in the middle, I think.
Okay.
It wasn't my intention to go deep into talking about emptiness, but I'll probably end up covering it. Because it's awesome. No. No, but it really is. I mean, what else? Once you get hooked into this idea, it has a word, right? Emptiness. But it means something. And when you uncover that meaning and you begin to have a flowering of what that means, and then more so, how to apply it, how it is applied to remove anything you don't like. Because that's what it does. As soon as you... Let me do the class. Yeah, and then we'll cover it, I'm sure of it. So we're talking about the four forces. In the book that we're studying, to generate a heart of ultimate compassion, the wish to wake up, to get enlightened, to see, to become Buddha, right? The wish to become an enlightened being for the sake of everybody who is not, yeah? And yourself. To do that uncontrollably, to have that purely in your heart, to live your life that way, this is the book we're studying. So we started with a motivation, yeah, a reality check. Then we said, oh, before we even get to that wish, we have to prepare to purify, which was the prostrations, refuge, and making offerings. These are the parts of the engine. Without it, the engine don't work. Okay. And then we began by saying, well, to purify, how do you generate enlightenment? You got to remove the obstructions that you are doing right now. So stop doing unethical behavior, because that's going to result in unethical experiences, which means suffering. So you stop doing crappy stuff, which is difficult. But then you've got a collection of those things still in your pocket from a long time ago. So clean them up too. Have a perception where they can be cleaned up too. And then generate extraordinary goodness. So you can have a perception. So your mind can generate an experience of extraordinary results. That's it. Very simple, right? Enlightenment. So, why didn't they say that? So we're in Master Shantideva's text, we haven't even began how to generate goodness. He's just still finishing up the purification because it's so important. Yeah. So I covered them last week. The top sheet, 4 forces, right? What were they? And there are lots of different orders, but his order was, first of all,
intelligent regret.
The force that destroys.
The destruction force, which means
that we understand cause and effect.
Intelligent regret, right? And intelligent regret means you just saw yourself saying something angry to someone, something hurtful. Like you said something, and it doesn't have to be a yucky thing, meaning, oh, Nick, I really like your hair. I mean, I said I liked his hair, right? But I meant it with.
Oh my god, sorry. Today, somebody called the Three Jewels and they wanted us to do something like for marketing or something like that. And I was like, no thanks, I don't need it. And then I hung up, and then, because he just kept talking and wouldn't let me. So I was like, oh no, I said, no thanks, is that okay? And he said, no, it's not okay. And then I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go. And I hung up. And then he called back, and he was like, that's no way to run a business now, is it? And I was like, oh my god, this guy's crazy. And then he said, well, I hope you have good luck with your business. Very, very good luck. And I was like, okay.
You did not mean that.
You didn't mean that. Thanks.
Thanks. I'm having good luck, very, very.
He didn't know what to say. He didn't know what to say, but he didn't want to say something really mean because he was being recorded on the
Did you
phone.
regret?
Oh, right.
Huh?
Did you regret hanging up on him?
No, I didn't. But that was
But, I mean, that's a perfect example. How much do we do just in one day have just a little bit of low radiation nastiness towards others, right? And that's a karma, that's a planted thing in your mind. Even if the words are kind, good luck. You know, the words mean good. You don't have to say the F word, or, you know, you don't have to do that for it to be a negative impression on your mind. If you imagine the mind being of the quality of hyper impressionable, so then anything that goes through it, you will then experience that growing in your consciousness, and therefore create your experience in the future. So again, we're going in circles. The destruction force says, I recognize that my intention back there about the hair wasn't the kindest, and you're supposed to catch it before that seed in your very, 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 very fertile ground starts taking root, because they say karma multiplies every 24 hours. Yeah? So as soon as you catch yourself doing something that has even a tiny tint of negativity towards others, you catch it and you purify. So intelligent regret goes, I know that I'm going to get the result of that stuff, because I understand now with some logic where my world comes from. It's mostly in my mind. The perceptions in my mind, labeling every experience, come from me. They don't come from the experiences. Back to the aspirin.
Towards others and yourself.
Yeah, of course. And you're just another object in this. Object doesn't mean physical object, it means object of the mind. It brings me back to aspirin, you know. Yes, aspirin works sometimes. And it works sometimes because sometimes those times that it works, a deeper cause is producing a result. We know that because sometimes it doesn't work. So it's not in the aspirin. It's something in the interaction. And you can go look for it in science, and you can keep looking, but you can just go to Master Nagarjuna, and he says, we're going to talk about it today, but I'm going to say, you know, Geshe Michael in this class talked about pizza a lot, because he really likes pizza and he hates eggplant. If you really enjoy pizza and you like this pie, and it's nice and circular and red, and you think salivation and awesomeness and warmness and moisture and spicy, whatever, right? And you're looking at that object, Master Nagarjuna says, like the aspirin, if you look at it just on the surface, just a little bit, you can understand how there is no goodness in the pie from the pie's side. Most of us can understand that level of emptiness. Like there is no meaning in the aspirin from the aspirin, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the karma of the person, right? But then the big question, which was on my mind all that time, one of the ones that kept floating around was, but is there a round red thing that I experience, or the ant experiences, or the elephant experience the same? Is there some data there? Is there a basis of imputation? Is there something? Yeah? And then Master Nagarjuna goes, if you don't look too much, yeah, you can say there's a roundness and a redness we call yummy pizza. And some of us have, and I'm like, well, yeah, I didn't ask Nagarjuna, but Nagarjuna said it for me. You know, if you investigate that, if you investigate the basis of imputation, right, the basis for which your karma is being projected, and in science we call it atoms or subatomic particles or stream, whatever you want to call it. I don't care. Next year will be a new thing. In a decade will be a new thing. Because there's no end to it. And Master Nagarjuna says, and you would have gotten this that to some level at His Holiness's teaching, that you won't find it. You'll go down the rabbit hole and there's always another layer and another layer and another layer. You can't say that there is roundness for every single perceiver of that thing. They must produce it completely and utterly empirically round and red. We know the red already is not a truth.
Can you say that something exists but it's not separate from the observer, so each observer is experiencing
Exactly.
something, but that
Yeah,
something
you have to say.
Debatable
Yeah.
depending upon the,
right.
Yeah.
the school.
And this is where you
perspective.
get to the dependent origination thing, which is the opposite side of karma, of emptiness, Dependent origination, depending on all the philosophical schools, there's 4 different schools and different levels of understanding that, but the highest, we just jump to that in this class, because it's the ultimate. You end up getting to that level through analysis anyway. It's like there is something, because you're having this experience, right?
Yeah, but okay, so going back to that, if there's no one perceiving it, something exists.
Well, if there's nobody perceiving, is that your question? If there's
No, it wasn't. The
No.
question was more, the something is there, but the experience of what that something is going to be in.
Right,
Yeah.
so,
but what I'm saying is, Master Nagarjuna says to level 1, the pizza. Pizza is yummy. I can bring someone who's allergic to wheat, and pizza is not so yummy. Or it might be yummy and it produces a negative result. So you can't say a good experience comes from pizza. Yeah, we understand that level of emptiness. He goes, if you unexamine it, you can say the red round thing produced poo-poo and produced happiness. Yeah, therefore the red round thing is empty of having the nature of yumminess or yuckiness.
Right.
But what about the redness and the roundness? Does that exist out there? Is that what we found? Can you say that empirically you have a round thing? That everyone must experience that thing as round?
But that's subject to karma as well. That's just
Of
still
course,
perception.
yeah, that is just perception, right? And so you go, well, if it's not round, for some, what is it, right? And it depends on, it's dependently arising, it depends on the perceiver. And you have as many perceivers as there are minds, and they all have their own projections. So yes, there is something, but no, you can't find it. And that's another whole story, yeah?
but if he's saying yes, there's something, to debate that would be, so what I was saying, like if there was no one there to perceive it, that would mean there would still be something there, and that's not true.
That's not true.
That's not true what I said, or that's what you're agreeing with?
Is
me?
there something there if there's nobody perceiving it?
There's always.
You would say yes.
He would say yes.
Yeah.
Would he?
No.
Yes.
Right, no, so
so-
then that's not true.
Yeah.
No,
No,
but
that's
it-
what I'm saying. I don't think that's true.
Right.
Can there be something separate to a perceiver?
No.
No.
No, not independently.
I think that's the koan in Japan, right? The sound of one hand clapping. No, the wood, the
Tree
tree,
falling.
Yeah.
the forest. Yeah.
I was actually really confused about this. I'm really glad we're talking about it. One
We're
perspective
not
is
supposed
like,
to.
good. One perspective is there's flowers there, right?
Yeah.
And the mind-only school would say those are flowers only from my mind. Like they don't even exist independently.
At
of my
all,
mind.
yeah,
At
yeah.
all. They're not even
It's all
objects
in my mind.
space.
Yeah.
The middle way or
Majjhimika,
Prasangika
Prasangika.
school would say those are flowers out there. They are objects dependently arising, but they lack flowerness. So they are objects.
Yeah, and the
Right.
deeper you go, Nagarjuna school, the deeper you go, then you go, okay, so there's no flowerness to that object, but you could say there's petalness and stemness. And then you go, when you go to that level, when you drop down to that level, you can't find petalness in that shape and you can't find stemness in that shape. So now you've got two shapes to worry about, right? If you add color, you've got three things to worry about. So let's just take stemness. So let's go to that level. Is a stemness existing in the sticky thing that does that? Is it on the right side, on the upper side, and you can't find it, right? But you're dealing with something. You're not like, you are dealing with something you're labeling and you're discussing. So it is dependent on your label, not chosen, forced upon you by whatever's in your mind creating it. Your past karma, they call it, right? And then you go, okay, bottom of the stemness or the round, and you'll hit the floor. You're like, there's nothing to find.
But then if nothing is perceiving this thing, it would not exist.
Well, as soon as you talk about a thing, someone is talking about the thing.
So because the mind's completely referential, so as soon as it begins to actually look outside of itself, it's already created another thing. For the mind to exist, it has to be thinking.
The mind is forever busy doing stuff.
Yeah.
Is that the gotcha?
Yeah. Gotcha.
Gotcha.
The gotcha is
The thing that you think
the
is
thing we
there.
deny.
The thing we
Yeah.
deny.
The gotcha is the thing we deny. We're doing a completely different discussion, okay? But I'm glad that you got the questions. The big question is, if the mind is busy interpreting data, and it's mostly interpreting data, it is interpreting data from 6 inputs, yeah? The sound, the taste, the touch, the feel, and the thoughts, yeah? And also an object of the mind.
But devoid of individual meaning, more like as though you were scanning something through a projector and it projects it based on the quality of that.
Of the sense,
Yeah.
right? But sort of. If you removed the sounds that came to your mind, and you removed the thoughts that popped up in your mind and the sights and the smells and such, what are you left with? Who are you then? What is your mind without a thing to engage with? Yeah, it's not the purpose of this class, okay?
Stainless mirror.
Stainless mirror. But what's reflected on that surface, right? And when you get to that, you come to a position, an experience of a position that says there is nothing at all that exists out there separate to whatever is creating this experience. That it's empty of any of those natures, of the quality of sound, of the roundness or the redness. If you truly have, if you can get to that level of stillness in your mind where you can catch those things moving and appearing, the scriptures say you will come to this realization. You can call it whatever you're going to call it, depending on the tradition that got you to that realization. Okay? This tradition, they call it seeing emptiness directly. But if it's a truth that the mind, consciousness, has this experience, and this is the game, because that actually begins a whole new being, that begins a whole new creature, that breaks open the limited perception that we think exists with what we are calling mind through these senses. We're trapped inside these 6 doorways, and we think that's our reality. And the reality is you remove the doorways and it is a zillion times more expansive.
So in a way, could you say that the direct perception of emptiness is not a perception as much as a lack of the other perceptions which are clouding it?
Yeah, that's interesting. It's nice that you're going there. This is, this got me too for a long time. I kept going, do they keep saying removing obstacles to omniscience and removing obstacles? Because they're saying at its nature, mind is that stuff, And all you're doing is you're removing the obscurations to that experience.
Yeah, because you were just saying about the 6 senses. I just heard it differently this time, and it's like, the direct perception of emptiness in a way is sort of happening right now.
You can't, yeah.
But I'm just not aware of it,
That's the metaphor of emptiness being like a diamond. It's always around you, every single object. It is accessible to you every single time, but without removing the obstacles that lets you step into that, you're not going to experience it in that way, because we're trapped in the I sense and the ear sense, and and most importantly, the conceptions of those things as we've been habituated to. It doesn't have to. These sounds don't have to have this meaning. If you're from Eskimo land and whatever, and you enter here, these sounds don't have this meaning. These sounds don't have this meaning for a dog or a cat or a fish, or there's nothing in these sounds. Why are you having this experience?
I was just going to say, it's like in Taoism when they say, the Tao that can be explained is not the true Tao. In a sense,
Right.
You obviously we have to discuss it, we have to talk about it and analyze it and try and, but at the end of the day, it's an experience. It's not.
Yeah, they say it's that thing with no name.
Yeah, you can't.
But we also got to know, once you do have an experience, we know what the sun is, right?
Yeah.
Because we point to it and go, that's the sun. But what we're pointing to is not the sun. Yeah, it doesn't feel like the sun. Yeah, it's not as far as the sun. The sun, what's the sun? Yeah, I mean, guys, we've got half an hour.
Break.
Yeah, let's have a break and then we'll start class. No, seriously, come back and we'll refresh and we'll start class.
Half hour break?
Yeah, half-hour break and we'll do 5-minute class. Great. Yeah. Now, dedicate. You just went nice into thinking about the most important thing you can be thinking about, because then apply all that to who you are, and you can break free. I mean, I'm quoting songs today. Go have a 5-minute.
Was that Queen?
Yeah. Go. Can you be back in 5 minutes? Like at 9 o'clock, please, 9:01. Please.
I was wondering.
Oh, good.
So we're
I
gonna
heard
do
that.
that, or we're gonna bring stuff
No,
from here?
earlier.
We're gonna bring stuff from here.
So we don't get
And you talked
Yeah,
about
I haven't